Hey, today I'm doing a video that I don't normally do. I'm just gonna do a little bit of a review overview thing of a Revolution Armory Impact R4. Before I bought this, I looked up reviews and there wasn't a whole lot of information out there. I think they might be sort of new to the Canadian market. They're a Turkish clone of a Benelli M4 shotgun. So if you need to take it apart, you can look up Benelli M4 disassembly and it's the same thing. And on first inspection, I noticed one thing: the charging handle. So the charging handle is super hard to get out of there. I don't know if that's mine specifically or an issue with every single one. I needed a pry bar to get it out of there, so I took it to a grinder. I ground down the very end here where the spring detent goes into these grooves. So you can see the end is lower than where this is. And that makes it so I can remove the bolt handle by hand, because it was like way too hard. And yeah, so that's the one main issue I had at first. The other is that the grip felt like it was really wobbly, like I could shake it around a lot. And I just got this back from shooting, and the grip started to just slide off, so that's just glued on like that. So that's not very good quality there, but I can re-glue that on and it won't be a huge issue. Kind of sucks, but this is a fairly inexpensive shotgun, so they had to cut corners somewhere. Looking inside this pistol grip, there's these little rubber ribs that go down the length of it, and one actually seems to be broken off and goes inside the hole. You can see it on the bottom edge there, and that could be why mine came off. If that rubber molding had that defect, it would make it so the glue wasn't making contact on this side very well and would cause this to come off super easy for me. So I'll try and knock that chunk of rubber out of there before I glue it back on. So yours may or may not have this problem, but just something to note. And then now getting to the shooting, I was only shooting target load. I only shot 50 rounds and it did not function very well. When I first got this, I pulled it apart and there was a lot of really thick packing oil in there, and I cleaned that out. I didn't lube anything up after that, and then tried shooting. It wasn't functioning very well, so I had WD-40 with me, put a bunch of that in here. Seemed to function a little better. Still, I couldn't make it through a full magazine tube without having malfunctions. So what I'm going to do now is disassemble it, and any parts that come in contact I need to slide, I'm going to polish those up a little bit and lubricate it a bit more and try it out again. So one thing I've noticed, just taking the bolt out, in there you can see there's this groove that the bolt slides in, and that groove was Cerakoted, and you can see a lot of that Cerakote is coming off. So I suspect that once that's kind of wore out, these along here will slide through the receiver a lot easier, and it should function better. It's just, I don't think Cerakote is a particularly good lubricant. So now as far as what I'm doing, this guy here, it's machined, but it's kind of rough, so you can see actually where it's scraping. And I'm gonna polish that off a little bit. and it should run a little smoother. So what I'm doing to clean this up is I have this diamond knife sharpening stone, and I'm simply rubbing this on here because this is super flat. And I said that this was all machined, but actually now that I look at it more, like this slot in here was machined, and there's probably some other machining parts like the holes and this groove, but the rest is actually a cast part. So casting has, you can actually see it in the video, it's got a bit of a texture to it. It's not super smooth. So if I polish that up, it should be nice and smooth, and it will cycle hopefully a lot better. Since this is a cast part, actually it's easier to tell here. On this side it looks like it's taking metal off in the middle, but there's still paint on the outside edges. That's because the cast is not perfectly flat, where this knife block is, well, a super flat surface, not perfectly flat, but it'll take down any high spots. And so after a little bit of work, now it looks like this. And I went over it with a bit of steel wool too, so it is super smooth. Doesn't feel gritty like this part here. Now the next thing I want to look at are these guys here. These are the gas pistons. You can see the machining lines going along around the radius, and I'm going to chuck this in a drill and try and polish those off a little bit. I don't want to take them down very much, because then you'll have dimensional issues and you'll have gas blowing past them, which you don't want. So I just want to clean them up a little tiny bit. So here I have it in my drill, and I'm just going to spin around and with my other hand hold sandpaper on here. I'm probably going to use 320 grit sandpaper, so it'll leave a nice smooth edge. So after just a few seconds of spinning it in the drill, you can see those machining marks are gone. There's still the little scratches from the sandpaper, but this should be a little bit easier to slide in and out, and again, should make the gun function better. Another thing I should note is that it appears there is Cerakote inside of the piston tubes, so that might also cause a bit of an issue, and that should wear out just from shooting. And now looking at the inside of the receiver here, this groove is where, this groove here is where that part of the bolt I sanded down rides in. But right ahead of it, there's this edge here, and I'll zoom in. It actually looks to me like there's a couple, like there, and there, where it's touching more, and there's the Cerakote in the middle. It's kind of a rough edge that's, yeah, it's a rough edge, and I'm just gonna sand that down. I'm not gonna worry about that channel, the Cerakote in there. I'm just gonna allow that to get rubbed out of there just through normal use, because it's in a spot that's kind of hard to sand. And now I'm just putting this back together with some CRC dry graphite lubricant. Try that out. Okay, I'm getting ready to shoot some Challenger first class target load, 12 gauge, 2 3/4, number 7.5 shot. They're a pretty light load, and I think that if I were to be shooting 3-inch shells, or even a little bit heavier load out of 2 3/4-inch shells, I believe the gun would cycle fine. But I mostly shoot this stuff. I like to just shoot skeets and whatnot with it, so I want it to run this stuff. So I'll give this a go, see if the dry graphite helps out. Got 3 It is running, just not great. Seems to be working a little bit better now, so maybe it's wearing in. I've only shot those 10 plus, well, I guess a bit more than 10, but 50 rounds before I started taking this video. So I haven't shot much through this, but it was just not working at all before. Actually, I shouldn't say that. I set the buttstock against my tailgate of my truck, and when backed up with that, it ran. And that's just because the more you hold this rigid, the more that inertia will do its thing and recoil the bolt back, and instead of the whole gun moving back with that bolt, the gun stays still, the bolt will come back and it'll cycle a little bit better. But my shoulder isn't a truck, so I'm not quite as rigid. But we'll keep shooting here. Starting to work a bit better. Seems to be working a bit better now. And all that polishing that I've done, that is something that basically would be done from factory if this were an actual Benelli. And since these guns are far cheaper than those, they had to cut corners somewhere, and if all that it takes to get it to work, maybe not as good as Benelli, but to work anyway, if all it takes is a bit of sanding, then it's not a bad gun. Keep going here. So still not functioning flawlessly, but it is a lot better than the last time I shot it. One thing that I did not do is take apart the buffer tube, because it could still have a bunch of that pretty thick oil in there, and that could be slowing down the action as well. But I might actually just give this some Pops number 9 lubricating oil. And see if that helps at all. It'll probably just cover my face in oil because I completely covered it. All right, here we go. Not too bad. Maybe the hops number 9, maybe they know what they're doing. I just like the idea of the dry graphite, because with it being dry, it doesn't collect all the dust and gunk and stuff like an oil will. But that's the end of this box, so let's see if we can empty this mag too. So, looks like a bit of polishing and some elbow grease will get this gun working pretty good. So some closing notes on the Impact R4. The other issues I've noticed is just some minor things like some of the molding marks are kind of left on here, and on this knob, on the one nub, it actually still has a little piece of plastic hanging off, and it's kind of a sharp little point, so I'm gonna have to sand that off. So just some small issues with the plastic molding. Biggest issue, I guess, is the whole grip falling off part. But the sights seem pretty nice. They're all machined from what I can tell, and they're pretty high vis with the white dots. I haven't actually used the sights because I put my Mepro light on there, and it's nice that I can adjust the comb in order to have proper cheek weld while looking through the Mepro light. But yeah, for a fairly inexpensive gun, it is, in my opinion, worth it. If you're willing to do a little bit of work on your guns, then this is a pretty nice semi-auto shotgun for not a lot of money. And having the different Cerakote options is nice. And as far as the functionality goes, I suspect it'll only get better as parts sort of wear in and smooth out, and some of that Cerakote cleans out of the receiver. So it should get better, and I'll probably just put a comment down in the bottom here of this video and maybe post some updates as to whether or not it's improving, getting worse, or if anything really bad happens, I'll probably post a video of whatever bad happens. So yeah, that's it for this video. It's not my typical content, but hopefully it was useful for you, and thanks for watching.